So, small isolated economies are in a pretty bad situation. Technologically, the path to industrialization is going to be very hard because of this problem of doing scale and interdependence together, and the problem that you need a lot of pioneering investment, and there'll be too little of it. In Britain, which was the Britain of 1750, was the ultimate small isolated economy. In Britain, it took a long time. You know, we had 100 years of industrialization, slow pace, little impact on living standards, no miracle of productivity. So were South Sudan to take the same path Britain did, that doesn't offer any rapid route out. If we look at other examples, Russia during the period of the Soviet Union, it did industrialize whilst isolated. It wasn't small. Soviet Union was a massive society by the standards of today's small isolated economies. And even so, what the Soviet Union managed to get to was modest middle income. The miracle of productivity burned out at quite a modest level. India, post-1947, tried to follow the Soviet model until about 1990. And India's, in one sense, a big country, billion people, but it was much poorer. It started much poorer than the Soviet Union. And so it was, in many ways, a fairly small economy. And the closed economy attempt to industrialize in India most definitely didn't produce a miracle of productivity. So living standards really didn't rise very much. And finally India opened up, and that's been a much more successful phase in India. But what we learn from that is that today's small open economies, it's really, they're on a dead end, they're in a cul-de-sac. And so they have a choice: either cease to be small or cease to be isolated. Cease to be small, federate with some neighboring country if you can. Integrate as much as possible with your neighbors. Cease to be isolated, build transport infrastructure and services that connect you with the global economy. Integrating into the global economy, the infrastructure you need for that can be very expensive. South Sudan, at the moment, its transport connectivity is very, very poor. There's talk of building a railway to the coast for South Sudan. It's not commercially viable, such a railway. And so no company will do it. South Sudan is in itself, the government is in no position to borrow the money to finance that itself. And so if South Sudan is to be integrated into the world economy, that will have to be international public money that finances it. Finance might not be the only constraint. Let's flip back and look at the potential constraints that come not from the intrinsic economics, but come from the politics and the sociology, the two other channels that we've been looking at.